Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Brian. I like Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark Christmas movies.
And I'm Michael Rady, and I'm in a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies.
And this is the
Deck the Hallmark Podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast. Brandon and friends host his podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Oh, boy, this is exciting.
yes, it is.
Another Friday here in Christmas in July where we're taking a little trip down memory lane.
We sure are.
Yeah, we are.
5
Rewatch.
years of podcasting.
We're rewatching Hallmark Christmas movies for actual content that
Yes.
people are paying for.
Yes, and we're asking.
That's what we're doing.
We're asking people that were in the movies to rewatch their own movie from 5 years ago and then critique it. It's a weird thing we're doing.
I do think the world's about to end. I think
That's
that's
start on this one, y'all. You're like, this is there's a reason. There's a reason we don't normally review our own movies with you because it's impossible to get why like how this is a big ask.
it was a big ask.
Yeah.
I can't believe you said yes. And last week we had on two actors from the movie we rewatched, Michael, and they said their response was, "Yeah, I'm proud of it." That was their response. So that's the baseline. That's
Yeah.
what you have to
Yes.
work with here when we ask your hot take of this movie later on. The two before you have said, "Yeah, I'm proud of it," with a higher pitch than normal voice. That's what they said. All right.
Got it. Well, I don't know. This was an easy yes. I love hanging out with you guys and chatting. We always have a good time.
Yeah, we do.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, this was an obvious choice to be one of the movies that we rewatched. One, it was the first Christmas movie of the 2018 holiday season. So our very first holiday season, this was the first movie to kind of kick off the real deal season.
That's right.
Two, it is our still to this day our highest listened to episode of all time.
That's right.
Is the Christmas in Pemberley Manor episode.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it has anything to do with us.
No.
Maybe a little bit to do with the movie. Also, perfect timing. We were on Good Morning America like the day this
The morning
episode
that
dropped.
this dropped. Yes.
And
yes.
so
That'll
it
do it.
was, it just happened that way. But it was
the stat, and no one can really argue.
No.
Who's going to argue?
that.
No one can argue.
This is the best movie of all time. That
yeah.
The best of all time, officially.
I do remember getting in the car, taking us to the airport after Good Morning America, and Panda was in the back, and he was like, "Guys, we're 10." And I was like, 10 what? He's like, "We're number 10 on the charts." And I was like, "What charts?" He's like, "All podcasts."
Wow.
And I was like, "What?"
Screenshot that?
So there was a brief moment where we were number 10 in the country of all podcasts being listened to.
we haven't been there since. But
We
if you don't
haven't.
think that we put that in every email we reach out to
Yeah, we
people
have.
with,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not
we're
in comedy, just all over all everybody.
we're an all-time 10 podcast.
That's right. Top 10. All-time 10.
An all-time 10.
And
That's
that
what
was
they
because
say.
of Michael Rady and Jessica Lowndes and Christmas at Pemberley Manor.
all-time-
Nothing to do with national TV.
An all-time
Big
10.
deal.
An
That is-
all-time
we did it together. I'm honored to be a little part of that. And here we are celebrating 5 years later.
That's
Here
right.
we are. Rady, before we dive into this movie, I want to talk a little bit about this year, and if you have anything you want to tell us.
Whoa, that was like a parent thing. It was like, hey,
We've brought you here.
Yeah, we brought you here.
You want to tell us?
Do you have anything you want to tell us about Christmas time?
What do you know about? I mean, do what?
No one's going to get mad.
Mm.
Here, we're here to help.
Well, I don't know if Hallmark has announced it yet.
Well, that's one way to do it.
I guess Hallmark fans will see me soon this year.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know.
love it.
Hallmark's announced. Not that there's anything to announce.
But I don't know if they have or not.
Yeah. Hallmark.
That's great. I love that. Well, maybe see you this holiday season. I'm excited.
Yes. Yes. I can say that much. I don't think I can say any more than that, but I am excited for it. I'll say that.
Hallmark fans will see him. He's doing a cross-country tour. He's driving and waving
With his pants.
to all of the...
He's traveling with his pants.
Traveling with his pants.
It's Michael
Not
Rady
a
and the
bad
traveling
idea.
pants.
You guys, national road trip.
Yeah.
Why don't we go around to like hubs around this country? I've invited myself on this,
Dude.
and we meet the Hallmark fans in person.
Just say the word. Just say the word, Rady. We're on a road trip. Let's do it.
You know what was just announced? I imagine Hallmark's knocking at your door. They're going to do a cruise next holiday season, 2024.
Yeah.
Christmas cruise.
Your face was nodding, but your head was definitely, this is my nightmare.
Yes.
I'm not a cruise person either.
What would
So many questions.
it's?
I imagine it's just like every part of the cruise ship is just blasting fake snow. Everything.
It's great for the environment.
On the horizon, and it's just a cloud, like a floating snow globe of Christmas on the horizon.
It's an interesting. What's the word? Juxtaposition.
Yeah,
You
sure.
could use
Thank
that
you.
word.
You nailed it,
When
buddy.
you slow it down, it's super cool. Of being out in the Caribbean in the water,
Yeah.
but also there's Christmas on
Yeah.
board the ship. I'm going. I don't know if the podcast is going. I don't know if we're being invited.
Business trip.
But I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like-
you're going to show up at the dock with your travel visa, and you're going.
They're gonna send me away. They're
It
gonna
was
say,
like
"Not you."
somebody was holding a cue card off screen, and you just sounded out
Juxtaposition.
juxtaposition.
Can I have the language of origin, please?
Giant tips. I feel this deeper connection to the movie Titanic right now because we had a big storm system come through the East Coast on 4th of July. It was July 3rd. I put baby Maisie to bed, and I wake up to Rachel waking me up at it felt like it was 3 a.m. It was probably 9:30. She's like, "There's water in the basement. Come on!" Oh my God! I get out. I run down the basement. Guys, it's streaming in the high windows and like the you can get the windows that you have to put in like the basement walls.
We know about windows. Yeah.
Windows are great. You can see through them. They're usually made of glass. This was no glass here, plywood, because this window broke, so we put a piece of plywood up. And that window well had filled up with water from the patio, and it was streaming in. And I'm still asleep, really. I'm half asleep standing there. I'm offering no ideas.
Yeah.
But this is James Cameron's set for Titanic right now. Jack was chained to a water pipe in the corner. It was crazy.
What do you do when it's actively coming in? Like, what was your play there?
Nothing.
Actively coming in. I honestly could. We had my wife's sister was here and her friend, and so they were like, "What if we grab those sleds what if we take the sleds up, we put them over the window?" And I wasn't answering because I was asleep. They're like, "Oh, what is he? He doesn't like that idea. I guess he thinks that's a bad idea." I know. I don't know. I don't know I don't know what to do. I'm asleep.
The sleds, as in
my
the
cruise
snowing
No
sleds?
Scoop it out.
Our sleds are in the basement.
Did you go with the sled idea, or did you get a better idea?
They did. They went up and put like a sled across it, and that kind of helped slow the rush. And
You said they did. That means you didn't help. Did you deuce out?
I honestly couldn't get I was so asleep. I couldn't get my wits about.
You're just watching 3 women in the middle of the night put sleds.
Duct tape
You're
a
like,
sled
duct
to
tape
the-
sleds.
It's 9:30 in the evening. You can't expect me to be just ready to roll.
At this hour
Come on.
in the year of our Lord?
I cannot offer help or ideas right now. I am asleep.
I took my melatonin 45 minutes ago.
I'm gone.
I'm off the clock.
Anyway, that's my cruise ship.
Okay, yeah. So we
love
won't see you on the cruise. We won't see you on the cruise. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Christmas at Pemberley Manor. As I did last week, I could have read the same synopsis. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the easy way out here. Fresh eyes, fresh synopsis.
Can't lose.
Can't lose. That's exactly right. Originally aired on October 27th, 2018. And for those of you that haven't seen it 5 years ago or since, it went a little something like this. We meet Elizabeth, a literal party planner. She's not someone who gets dragged in to party planning. She's not like a high executive somewhere and says, you got to plan the party. No, this is her job. This is nice. She's heading to plan her first big Christmas festival thanks to a childhood friend. His name's George. And he's asking specifically for her. George almost certainly is too young to be a mayor. He's too young to be a lawyer. He's both of those things, apparently. He's young. He's a regular Doogie Howser. And he and Elizabeth went on a date back in the day, but she just wants to be friends, and he is clearly on board with that. When we meet William Darcy, we're like, yeah, that's a big deal right there. He's getting into a helicopter. He's sucking at jokes. He's an all-around exactly what you would think. And she wants he wants to basically have the manor that he is getting from his aunt and his uncle to be torn down. He wants to sell it, torn down and built into condos. Can you believe this guy? Can you believe this guy? Condos? He sends his new assistant, Travis, to get coffee. Travis cuts off Elizabeth because his job depends on it. And so she's like, no, I'm not having this. So she goes to talk to William, give him a piece of her mind. And in the process, the sparks are flying. But thanks to the water main breaking in the town square, it's caused a sinkhole. And the gazebo is now underground, so you can't have the festival there. So Elizabeth decides to go to a manor she saw, the Pemberley Manor, to ask if they can use it. And that's when she realized exactly who owns that house. The coffee guy. After some convincing, he agrees to let them use the space for the festival. Elizabeth and William begin hanging out. They're putting up Christmas trees. They're making Christmas cookies. Literally any Christmas thing you could possibly want or imagine, they are going to do together. There's also a guy who takes care of the house. His name is Chris. He is most definitely Kris Kringle, the Santa Claus. There's not a single doubt.
There's no confirmation.
He is Santa.
Not the whole movie, not a single confirmation.
He is Santa.
I want to be very clear. There's no confirmation.
But
could just be Chris.
Could just
the groundskeeper.
He's Santa.
Could be.
She starts to realize that William is actually a pretty awesome fellow once he lets his guard down and stops kind of being a doofus face. And he starts to realize that she's a great singer, seeing as how she's always singing and claiming she doesn't want to sing anymore. But
Don't make me sing.
It's a whole thing. The festival, I guess, takes place over a few nights. The first night they do a Christmas tree lighting. William reluctantly comes outside of his house to watch it and shakes Elizabeth's hand afterwards.
Shakes Elizabeth's hand. Hey,
juxtaposition.
Has Elizabeth hand? Is that the sequel to Elizabeth Town?
Yes. And now it's just a hand. So a paparazzi is there, takes a picture of the two of them shaking hands. And this is bad news. One, he likes to keep things private. He doesn't like his private life public, is what I'm trying to say. But two, they didn't give her boss credit for throwing the festival, and her boss is very angry about it. I want the credit. So she comes down to the downtown, to basically take over the project. She also keeps trying to spend time with William, but he's only got eyes for Elizabeth. They even go on a horse and carriage ride. Apparently, one of the events was a concert and the singer backs out. So her boss makes Elizabeth do it. She's very nervous, but she gets up there and she does sing. William is just looking from afar, being like, boy, would you look at that? Then spin move, George shows up and is like, hey, I'm thinking about asking Elizabeth out again. What do you think about that? And William says, you should go for it. Can you believe this guy?
Doofus face.
What a doofus face. And Elizabeth is getting jealous after seeing Caroline touching William's arm. Who can blame her? What an arm, am I right? It's at this point that Caroline sends Elizabeth home because she's just getting in the way. William is like, what's the point of anything in life if Elizabeth isn't here? I'm going to sign this property as quickly as I can. After a heart-to-heart conversation with Chris, he decides that he wants to tell Elizabeth how he feels. The new owners, though, shut down the festival. He sold the house. We're not going to do the festival anymore. You don't own the house. Elizabeth is like, over my dead Christmas loving body. So she hatches a plan. She figures out basically that Pemberley Manor, even though he sold it, he signed all the papers, it's basically a done deal. It's not a done deal. That's not how it works here. It has to be officially signed off by the board. And everyone knows the board signs off on transactions after the paperwork is signed. And so they go and they get the property ready for the big Christmas Eve festival extravaganza, not asking for permission. And Caroline is not on board with this. Thanks to some tomfoolery that takes place by Travis, telling him that Elizabeth loves him and like making it hard for him to get onto his helicopter, William decides, I'm going to go back to Pemberley to tell Elizabeth how I feel. But apparently,
Snow mountain. There's a snow mountain.
Something has happened, and snow has fallen this way and this way and this way and this way. The moving car is now surrounded by snow. There's nowhere that they can go. I guess that's the end of that, huh? No, not the end of that. The guy who's playing Santa, Chris, the Santa guy.
Chris walks out of the woods.
Perfectly
normal.
Full Santa garb.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey,
regular clothes for him.
Let me help a brother out. I'll fly you there.
They walk back into the woods. They don't say a thing about
We don't
flying.
know. We don't know. But he ends up at the manor. Darcy shows up, reads The Night Before Christmas, kisses Elizabeth, finally tells her how he feels, and that, my friends, was Christmas at Pemberley Manor.
I think that's our time.
We
That's
did
it. That's it.
That's
Hey,
our
listen,
time.
you can't just cut stuff out willy-nilly, Michael. You know that.
That was an elaborate synopsis.
It's an elaborate movie.
Do you think
it's an elaborate
you
movie,
thought it was
Michael.
more elaborate because you were in it and having to relive it was a
Yeah,
different
you've heard me
experience?
read a synopsis, I think, 3 times now.
Yeah.
I will. And, I was present too. I'm just going to offer this now. There's usually a lot more. This isn't because of you. There's usually more sinkhole things.
Sure.
Right? That I felt like this was, yes, William's silly. This was silly. But usually it's like, and then the bank owner has to like dig the hole for the painter because that's how it works. There's usually like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just
So you
felt
thought
like
my synopsis was boring. That's what you're
It's a
saying.
little dry.
We'll dry.
No, I was like, wow, okay, our movie was pretty well crafted.
There you go. Well,
That was the pitch. That was the
There
pitch
it
of
is.
I'm really proud of it from earlier.
That's
Yeah, that was
exactly
it.
right.
Guys, listen, this movie was originally called The Great Sinkhole Christmas, and then
That's a great name.
I'm all in on that.
That
You wanna
name
take a
is
break first.
That name is still on the table.
Yeah.
Someone can write that
Ooh.
movie right here, right now.
I don't know if the audience, the fans have heard that. That's what it originally was written as, The Great Sinkhole Christmas.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big, it's a
big
Big
part
part
of
of it.
it.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge.
Huge
character here.
It's huge. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll break the movie down with 4 segments here on Deck the
the
Hallmark. We're back, everybody. We're talking about Christmas at Pemberley Manor, a movie that we reviewed 5 years ago. I know that because it's in our book, I'll Be Home for Christmas Movies. And here's what we thought about it 5 years ago.
This is the worst part of this, Michael, and I'm sorry. And he's going to keep you on screen too.
I'm
really sorry.
I said love, comma, really fun, comma, very Christmassy. Panda, who's not here, rest in peace, said liked.
Raise the glass.
Liked. Great way to get the Christmas juices flowing.
That's what Panda said?
And Dan says, bad on top of bad. Thought the movie had flown by, then realized we weren't halfway done. Let's find out if all that holds true. I want to start with you, Brian,
Yeah.
someone who was not here 5 years ago to review the movie. I don't know if you've seen this movie or not, but this is your first hot take of this movie. What do
Yeah.
you think about it?
I'm sort of in line with Panda. I feel like this movie kicked it off pretty good. I think Christmas winter.
Good juice?
Good juice. Christmas juice.
Blame it on the juice.
Got you feeling loose. Wow. Don't blame it on the alcohol.
No.
Don't put
The
that on the
Christmas
playlist,
juice.
please.
Well, now that
It's
been
on there.
said.
That's all we can do.
I feel like it was starting off really wintry, and it felt really good. Something that didn't continue, but in the very beginning, when you're in the town, you see a lot of people walking around in the background. Like, it feels like leading up to Christmas season. So it felt really good. It did a really good job of kind of communicating that vibe. And so for me, that was a big win. A good old-fashioned Christmas movie is kind of what it felt like, minus the toxic workplace stuff. Yeah. But, you can't...
Her boss is pretty toxic, I'd say.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Minus that stuff. Like, that's there, but minus that, other than that,
how can you minus it if it's there?
You
what does
have to
that
exclude,
mean?
like, just forget that's there. The rest of it is
minus
great,
that.
great
You
Christmas
got it.
time.
You just minus it. That's all you do.
I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying it's a
Christmas.
classic Hallmark Christmas movie minus that, but that's there, but you still want to minus
subtract
it.
that from what we're seeing.
Subtract,
Minus
add it, but subtract it.
It's
Rady,
there,
are you ever
right.
on a set, Rady, and you're like, could we minus this?
Yeah, you minus this.
Could we just minus it?
It's a
we-
simple
the powers
equation.
of compartmentalization. Just minus it.
Exactly.
Just minus
Yeah,
it.
it's a simple math equation.
It'll have no ramifications. Michael Rady, you're in this movie. What'd you think about it?
Oh man, it's such a weird thing to go back and watch something that I've been in. Like, it's just weird.
Did you watch it when it first aired?
Not like on the 27th or whatever it was.
Okay.
But yeah, at some point along the way, I watched it. I believe only because I was most curious. I had just moved to Connecticut, and I got this movie an hour north of where I live, and it was like, guys, it's June. It's June in New England. Everything is just green upon green upon green, and the brightest blue skies. How this is not possible. And so I really wanted to see how.
They color correct the heck out of this thing.
Yeah, since this production company, they all come from a special effects background, so they put in most of the snow. Mm-hmm. And Colin, our director, I really just wanted to see for technical reasons. That was the most. That was. I don't always watch all my stuff, but I did want to see this one. And yeah, so what's my hot take? It's one of my favorite ones I've done to watch. It's just the experience of being in it aside. It's one of the most enjoyable ones I think that I've made. Yeah.
Fair.
Okay.
That's my hot take.
I loved it then. I love it now. I don't know if it's because it has like a soft spot in my heart because it was the first new one of the holiday season, and I was excited, and it was the beginning of the rest of my life. But I love it. I love this movie. I think it's just a delight. And I like the way it looks. I guarantee it. And I thought, Rady, you were fantastic in this movie. I thought the jokes early on, like, you crushed it, and there's just so much to this movie that it just makes me feel good. And so I've watched it a few times since, and I'll watch it a few more times before I die, I'm sure. Dan, bad on top of bad?
So on IMDb, Jane Austen gets a writing credit for this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's a crime for a number of reasons. But she does, because apparently they believe this is close enough to something Jane Austen has written to do so. There is a moment to Yeah. Well,
Rick, the research you did, that's tremendous that you.
Well, Rick, the other guy who wrote it is Rick Garman, and we've had him on the show before. And when I looked up to see who wrote it, because you had some quick jokes early on, and typically these movies don't have that quick rat-a-tat dialogue. And I saw it was co-written by Rick Garman and Jane Austen, and I was like, someone fix this, please. to besmirch the name of Jane Austen in such a way. Look, to reference the book, and this is dead serious. I will get the worst part out of the way first. There's a moment in this movie where they start the Christmas festival, and it's only 46 minutes in. I time-stamped it, and I couldn't believe that. And this time watching it, I still couldn't believe we were halfway through a movie, and they were starting the thing that signifies the end of the movie. And that was tough. This holds up. This is going to make some people upset. This movie holds up better than Rocky Mountain Christmas, in my opinion.
Boy.
It does. We watched Rocky Mountain last week. That's a fan favorite. This movie holds up better. And I think it holds up better because it is, like, quietly absurd. So it is, there's a sinkhole, and there's a Christmas festival that's 4 nights long for 12 people and all that stuff. But there are so many of those things that are so just quietly done. They're not big and broad and bold like a lot of stuff like in Rocky Mountain Christmas where they have a Christmas parade and it's like not even a full block long. Like this movie hides its absurdity so incredibly well. And when we go through these wait what's, you'll start putting it together that this movie is bonkers new, but they do it in such a matter-of-fact way. And I it's not because he's here. The thing I like about you, Michael, is because if you, depending on the material, you'll turn it up or down. And some Hallmark actors are just like, I'm here, I'm doing my shtick, and I'm leaving. But like in a movie like The Christmas Bow, you knew you weren't the show of that movie. Like you knew you weren't. You were there. You were basically very similar, in my opinion, to Michael Rady. Like you were just a kind, like listens to everything everyone says, processes it. In this movie, your character's great. Like there's joy underneath
you
there,
as a person.
There's small,
take or leave it.
quick-witted dialogue, like enough of like crust kind of falling off as the movie goes along, which is fun. You lean into the Santa thing. There's a scene I want to talk about with you when we get to the wait what's, where you have to show up after supposedly riding on Santa's sleigh. And we'll get there. I also feel like I could see that everyone was hot in this movie. I think I saw bugs at one point, and I wanted to get your take on that. So this movie has a lot of crazy going on, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just the calming presence of Michael and Jessica. I don't know if it's the color correction where everything is stark white and then the red really pops. It holds up a lot better than I remember it being.
Wow.
So whereas Rocky Mountain, like Treat Williams, great, Chris and Lindy, great. This movie is still one that, like, if I talk to you about it and tell you all the things that happen, you'd be like, that's a circus. It actually holds up a little bit better than the other one does. So, in my opinion. So there's that.
Rewrite the book. It's coming out. Here we go. It's time for all the feels before we talk about what gave us those Christmas feels, those feels that make you go, yes. Brian.
Yeah, the Travis and Jane kind of getting together.
Yeah.
I always like when that happens and that works out. And it seems like in the end it's going to work
like
out.
see character relationships.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's great. And they were really good together. The real feels was obviously the singing, the song.
I mean, don't make her sing.
And it was the only distraction was the big cardboard gingerbread house behind her that really took me out. But the singing was really great and probably one of the most memorable parts.
Can I ask, since we're doing this, I ask Michael this question? Early in the movie, she sings like a little bit all the time to establish she's a singer, but she doesn't. It's because she's singing really softly and she only sounds like okay. And then she gets to Oh Holy Night and she just crushes it. Was that on purpose, or was that just how it almost like makes you question how good of a singer she is early in the movie, and then you get to Oh Holy Night, which you don't try that unless you can slay it, and she does. Was there any talk of that?
As far as the volume at which she's singing earlier on?
Yeah, like how she's singing earlier versus Oh Holy Night.
I don't remember if there was talk with Jessica about that. I just remember there was talk about needing to establish that.
I got you.
That piece of the plot. And so, yeah, right. If someone like walked in, like while she's like in an office building a thing for Christmas or like somewhere, and she's just belting to herself, like with complete abandon, that would probably tell that story really in a much more like efficient way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a fair point for sure. Yeah.
Was it? And do you remember if it was in the script that much, or was she like, I'm going to try to sing as much as possible throughout the movie?
I don't think so. I think it was one of those things where producers and director and Jessica were like, look, this is a plot point at the end. We have to start laying breadcrumbs for that. So let's find moments and pieces where we can do that.
Did you consider throwing your hat in the ring to sing, or?
No, I did not.
Well, Oh Holy Night duet?
Oh,
man.
Give it to me right now. Michael Rady, what gave you the feels as you were watching this movie?
Oh, man. Look, you guys asked me to come in and watch my own Christmas movie. So, like, that negates, I can't very well, I can say probably on the helipad, when she's like, and she loves you, man. And I'm like, wait, what? You think Elizabeth loves me? Yeah, man. And that like changes my character's trajectory. That was like, Because what's better than like in 6th grade when your friend's like, dude, no, she likes you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You're like,
classic.
oh my gosh, she likes me. Like there it is, right there. All the feels.
That's a good.
I can't. That I can't be. I mean, and the singing, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, what she has such pipes. What an exquisite talent she has. That's for me, I have to go a little silly with it and say, helipad, 6th grade, she likes you.
Did you get to ride it in a helicopter? Because you're around it a couple times. Did you just say, hey, let's pop this thing up?
Character introduced. I love that. You can just
Yeah.
You can go. It's just it's so fun to have that as a set piece for your character in the introduction. It just does so much. So you can play again. You could just do like it's so. I'm just getting into. It's like I'm getting into a cab. I'm just getting into my helicopter.
I love it.
I love that. No, we shot that up in Rhode Island on some little airport, and I sat in it a bunch. I didn't get to fly.
That's a shame.
That's a shame. But you looked good in it. I'll say that
It
much.
looked like you belonged there.
Yeah.
I thought that the after seeing last week's snow in that movie, I felt like this snow looked good.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that it was filmed in the summer, I felt like it felt good and it felt Christmassy, which is something that the last week's movie was missing. Granted, it was from 2017, not 2018, but the snow looked significantly better comparing the two snows. I felt like that was it does a lot for a Christmas movie.
It does.
Big time.
If the snow looks good, like you can right a lot of wrongs with good snow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. They do all that in-house with. I mean, most of their snow is digitalized and put in.
I mean,
wow.
The feels of this movie, knowing it was shot in July, is how Christmassy it looks.
Yeah.
Because normally you can tell. Like, you can just tell there's like some cotton laying on the ground. And this movie just goes above and beyond with the snow. It really is
I
over
feel like
the top.
the Manor is part of that. They really capture the Manor. The Manor is a really great character in this. It photographs well. It tells the story well. So I'd say the town great, and like as Brian said, you really feel that hustle and bustle in the beginning. But every shot of the Manor is like it grounds you and says, okay, all right, yeah. So there's a constant steady drip of feels every time they show that.
Yeah.
That like I think like Greek colonial. That thing was beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And you live there, right? Now you got to keep it.
Took that house.
People, you take stuff from set all the time.
Shirt,
In this
gear,
case, you
pants.
took the house.
Yeah.
When you're wrapping the last day,
Right.
you're like, can I have?
Give me those keys.
Actually, I do have one of the trench coats. That on that show, they just put my entire wardrobe. They went out and bought me a duffel bag, put the entire wardrobe in the duffel bag, and said, "Here you go."
Oh,
That's real nice.
Man.
You had some nice sweaters and collared shirts in there,
Yeah.
so that's
I gave it all away.
a good get.
Gave it all away, this guy.
Yes, I bring it to my buddies, and I'm like, "Here you go."
Merry Christmas.
this is for you, Dan.
I mean, the Christmassy stuff was really good, and then the Oh Holy Night was really good. But I think we've already.
All right,
hit
great.
both of those.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with the Wait What and the What the Hallmark here on Deck the Hallmark. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about Christmas at Pemberley Manor. Michael Rady is here. It's time for the Wait What part of the show. So we talk about what in this movie made us go, wait, what? Brian, what you got?
Yeah, a few things. So when they first realized the sinkhole happened, the flooding, and all that stuff, and they say we can't do the party here, I'm looking behind them, and I just see a perfectly good downtown, like streets of stores and whatnot. And I know here in Greenville, they look for any excuse to shut down the streets downtown.
Oh,
They sure do.
yeah.
Any
There's some
excuse.
sort of fest or 5K or
Anything.
something
Oh man,
every weekend in Greenville, South
Just like-
Carolina. Yeah.
You might, I think they pay you to shut down the streets in Greenville.
They must.
You don't have to pay them. You
That's
don't have to
right.
pay. They're like, we'll
if
give
you have an
money.
idea.
That's right.
They cut you.
Yeah.
So I'm
Farmers
like,
market on Main Street doesn't matter.
but there wasn't even a mention of let's just shut down the streets and
Instead
do it
of it
downtown.
being here, what if we
Yeah,
just did
it was like
back
this
it up.
There.
field behind a bait and tackle shop
Yeah.
is the only option we have come up with.
That's it.
the gazebos. You got to
and the parking lot, the bowling alley parking
Bowling
lot.
alley
That's
parking
right.
lot. That's right. Of
No
course.
other
Those
options.
are our options.
That
Like
was-
if Lambton is notoriously like this dreamy Connecticut town that is the home of the famous Pemberley Manor.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a street. there's no other space. Yeah, what What about in the establishing shots? Those rolling fields of gorgeous.
No, can't use those.
Don't be
Just
stupid.
the state tackle shop and the bowling alley parking lot.
That's all there is to it.
Maybe they were taken.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It's very.
What a pickle we were in.
It was a pickle. He worked around it. At one point, you're in the Manor, and Travis rushes in to Mr. Darcy with a piece of paper, and he says, "Mr. Darcy, an email just came in." And he's got it printed out, and he hands him the email.
Handprint those emails.
Mr. Darcy doesn't have his computer, his email running, but they got a printer
He's
running.
on his phone nonstop in 2018. Print out all my emails. I don't know how many
definitely-
times I got to tell you. Print them out.
This is definitely the Bill Abbott days, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
He was being hazed still. Yeah, William was hazed.
That makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. You would make him print all his. I've purchased a couple of properties, and typically,
All right.
just a couple.
All
not
right,
a
Mr.
lot
Big
of-
Shot.
Just
What
a
was that
couple.
about?
I
Look
don't
at
have
this
a-
guy.
I don't have
I purchased a few properties. I'm a
couple.
property owner.
a couple.
Dropped it in there.
Yeah, like nothing.
So when I get out of my helicopter after purchasing a property, typically, like, nobody comes up to me and says, "Here, sign this," and then we're done. Like, usually you're at
Yeah.
in a boardroom. There's
right.
some lawyer involved. There's maybe a notary has to be involved. Something, anything. What? Are we booing notaries? Like, so just all the paperwork that had to be signed was just, "Here, sign this," and like hand it back to Travis. And so
It's
just
that easy.
I guess so. When you're a big business boy, maybe. And then the last one, I'll stop here, is that just when they finally did back out of the sale of Pemberley, it was after, I mean, the ink was on the paperwork.
So, yeah, we got to talk about
we
this
got
a
to
little
harp
bit.
on this a bit. I mean, that's a lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I will say this. Typically how anything works when you sell anything is buyer is like, I would like to purchase something, and seller is like, I would like to sell it. And then they get in a room, and the last thing they do is sign.
sure.
That's what happens. And
Yeah.
in this movie,
I know. I've purchased a few.
you've
I don't know if
purchased
you
some
heard.
things. They sign it.
Yeah.
And then Darcy just kind of says offhand, just like, well, I mean, yeah, a signature doesn't really matter until the board approves
Yeah,
it.
they got to ratify this whole thing.
Ratified.
That's
It's
right.
yeah.
It's a simple ratification. Do you think they signed the Constitution before they ratified it?
Need
Do you
everybody's
think they
signature
were
real
like,
quick.
all right, great, now the ink's dry, let's go about getting this thing ratified? That is like on the Sunday that is this movie, sprinkling in that little, like, how do we get around the fact he already signed it?
Yeah.
Well, what if the board has to ratify it? Hey, Daryl, that's not how that works. It doesn't matter. Rady's gonna say it. It's gonna be awesome.
I belied him. I believed
Did
him,
you
Michael.
even question it, Rady, or were you like, yeah, of course the board's got to ratify?
Oh yeah, guys. Like, wait, what? Yeah, I mean, you're like day 11 in the 15-day shoot.
Yeah.
And this doesn't come on. I've had 73 other questions. I meant to ask you this, but what's going on with this?
They're like,
Well,
just
that-
give him a bag of clothes.
You
and he'll
even,
shut up.
in fact, your character even keeps his head down as he says it. Like he's too embarrassed to lift his eyes to the screen to say that with any just gumption
Say
at
it
all.
to our
He's
face.
like this. I haven't ratified it. Oh man.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Michael, anything stick out to you, or are you watching your own movie that made you go, wait, what?
This sinkhole is tremendous. The
Yeah.
fact that is a significant like fulcrum in the plot is in a Hallmark Christmas movie. That's just, I love that.
You were telling us before we started recording that you weren't in any of those
You don't
scenes.
remember the sinkhole.
So you didn't even remember it.
William never had to really deal with the sinkhole stuff, and so I had forgotten that was a plot point until you referenced it once at one of the episodes we did of this, and you guys were like, "Well, not like the big sinkhole in Pemberley, Manor." Well, what? Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was a sinkhole. No. Oh my gosh, there was a sinkhole.
That is so funny.
And you know what? Kudos to, is it Synthetic? Is that who did it? Of the visual effects? You can see, which is something I didn't notice the first time we watched this movie. You can see like a quarter of the gazebo sticking out of the ground.
They don't show much. They just show you like
Just a little bit.
old school filmmaking. Like, what do we have to show? How do we tell the story? Well done there. Yeah. Kudos to Colin, our director, and that production group. That production company did my the Hallmark movie that I did this year.
Ooh.
So
That we have not announced.
And who
May or
can
may
say?
not.
Who can
one-
say if
who
it'll come
knows?
out? I don't know.
Yes.
It probably will. Probably. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I've done Hallmark movies and they didn't come out right away. So we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, another wait though. What the Hallmark? The Lambton. Look, guys, I have so many. I don't know who they
Juxtaposition.
spent all the money on, but they couldn't afford any more extras for guys.
Yeah.
This is the Lambton, like the famous.
Yep.
Famous Lambton Christmas Festival. There's 6.5 people there.
I'm going to hammer that one home in a second, but you're 100% right, Michael.
This is hard to take. This is it's really distracting. Come on. I mean, I feel like I saw our producers in there. It was probably like one of those nights at 3 a.m. Most of the extras just left because it was not worth the money. They were exhausted and hot and we're just going to go. And holy cow. Yeah. So that was come on. And also just she really had to give Lambton this Christmas festival. Everything hinged upon at the end, she you really felt her digging deep for to go the 11th round here. I'm in this. Lambton needs, they need this. There's 6 people. It's all just
They need it.
falls apart. So what?
I mean,
No,
they just
I
had a
don't-
sinkhole, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need the
They
morale.
need this
is
more
very
than
low.
ever.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of people in that sinkhole.
A lot of
a lot of
people
good
passed
men.
the sinkhole.
Yeah.
So the 6 people who were there were just sobbing. Yes, they were just grieving.
It was tough.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Mayor and Elizabeth Cole, I think they had great chemistry. Maybe they should.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of my what the hallmarks is George and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something there.
What's the thing George did, or
George
when they?
puts a dinner invite on the inside cover of a copy of Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
What in the world?
What a guy.
I mean,
Super in touch and romantic, and he's very handsome.
it looks
I
like
don't
Clark
know.
Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's much more accessible too than Darcy.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah. Well, we'll get to. I think we'll get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also there. Is I don't know. Maybe they should.
Yeah.
More than fair. I have a few. One, you want to know how you know these 2 leads are rich? Is mainly Darcy, but they go on a shopping spree.
Oh my gosh.
And they proceed to just dump the bags in the back of the
right.
car,
the
willy-nilly, upside down, inside out. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's just stuff.
It's just stuff.
just money. Let's just dump it on in there. There's literal bags that go upside down. That's a mess.
They hate. It's just how can we get rid of our? This is easier than shredding it and stuffing it in the
Right.
wall.
It's more fun. It's more fun at least.
Yeah.
It is an interesting move that the grand finale of the music night is a cappella. I was expecting music does come eventually, but to start off a cappella, it's a bold move, and that's the grand finale, and I appreciate that. You want to know what I love about movies sometimes is the way that things work out. The timing works out perfectly. The thing in this movie that made me think about this was when she's talking to Caroline and she's like, we're going to set back up the festival. We're going to do it. And I don't care if you're in it or not. And she's like, you can't do it all yourself. And she says, I've got friends. And she does this with her arm and it pans over and the people are walking up the driveway as if they heard the keyword.
Stay behind the
All right,
house.
wait until
And I'm going to say I've got friends who do a whole thing with my hands.
I'll do this, and then you start walking.
you hear
Because
I've got-
if it was me and I did that, I'd be like, and I've got friends. They didn't come. They're not. They're coming though.
Yeah.
I've got friends.
That's the key word. I've got friends. I've got them. My last one is that I guess William didn't really learn his lesson about being a good boss because he leaves his assistant to deal with the snow thing
He does. Yeah.
all by himself.
That's right.
And the driver. But he's
Deuces.
like, I'm going to go hitch a ride with Santa. You good, bro? You got it? I know there's just a snow just dumped on it. There's nothing.
Well, clearly it only held him up 5 minutes.
Yeah, you got it. No big deal. Oh, I got one more, which is Michael. This is for you. I love the way that your character is always just kind of lurking behind a column on the porch. It's just kind of like she's singing.
Hey there. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh wow, she's a good
Wow,
singer.
look at that tree.
It's a nice
It's like,
porch.
look at that. I like that. I like that a lot. I would like for you to move to Greenville and always lurk behind columns. That would
great.
make me
It's like a
happy.
supernatural thing. If he steps anywhere outside of the porch, that's his purview. He can only come that far.
It's just the porch. That's his.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all he can do. Maybe he'll hit the grass one day. Dan?
Guys, we have a lot of fun here on Deck the Hallmark, but sinkholes are not a joke. Like, they cause serious urban planning issues. They can expand. When a town has a sinkhole, it is not a minor thing.
Fair point.
There was a sinkhole under the bridge where Lawrence and Stone connect. It was a big deal, like a huge deal.
That's all we heard about for days.
This movie gives it 7 seconds. It is a very brief, everyone's fine, just a kind of a sinkhole situation because we've got the Christmas festival to deal with. And to your point, Michael, a lot is riding on this festival. Why? One, it is for 12 people, and that is important that you know. 2, Jessica Lowndes' career depends upon it. But 3, the mayor's career depends upon it, according to the mayor, who says, I promise big changes in this town, and the Christmas festival is at the top of the list. And so what he decides to do is
affordable housing, don't care.
Is to make one night 4 nights, and each of those nights has an event, Christmas Village, Santa, tree lighting, toy drive, that could all easily be on the same night of one night of festival. Why are they doing this to people?
Because that's government for you.
Why are they coming?
Another crime in this is the tree lighting is on the 21st.
Yeah, you're right.
Guys, that leaves you 4 days to enjoy.
That's better than some, Rady. Like, we've seen some Christmas Eve tree lighting ceremonies.
They saved the Christmas Eve night of the festival for the toy drive, so those kids can get their presents in mid-January, I guess. Like,
what are we doing?
What are we doing? That's exactly right. What are we doing?
Big changes. That's what we're doing.
There's no way What Here aside from Jessica Lowndes has to deliver this line. If this was event planning school, I would have flunked. There's no way What There. I just wanted to mention that line just to get it out there.
But
that was one. That was not from Rick. That was Jane. Jane wrote that one, and I want to be clear about that.
All the bad lines are Jane Austen.
Rick Garman made Jane's work better, and I think we're all. There's a scene where I thought we were going to get an almost kiss. Instead, we get one of the most awkward transitions of all time. Elizabeth and William are walking on the street. It seems like no one else is in. It's
evacuated.
It's a ghost town situation. No one else is there.
Sinkhole.
And they're talking about don't you want Elizabeth's like, well, don't you want love and a career and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I think I do. And she says, maybe you should put that on your Christmas list. And she stares at him. And then Rady goes into full Rady, got the beard, the suit, goes lower with the voice. Smoke show Rady is here. And he's like, perhaps. And he says it like that, perhaps. And he looks into those eyes and she looks back and she goes, hey, do you think that scarf would look good on George? And it is so weird. They are staring into each other's eyes, leaning in, and she just dives out to look at a yellow scarf.
It's like they cut out an almost kiss.
There wasn't an almost kiss there. Do you remember that scene at all, Rady?
I don't remember shooting that scene, but watching it, it was just a wait. What the?
It's where an almost kiss
should have been.
Yeah, belongs there,
Maybe I fell asleep for a second and missed something. How did that happen? I thought they were just gonna, and then he's getting a new scarf apparently.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah, dude, Dan, I am with you a million.
That was a tough one. 2 quick ones, and then I'll save my last. I got 3, and I got 1 for the What the Hallmark. Briefly, not only does she sing a finale, but she does so at what amounts to be a caroling concert. So like, it's just Christmas carols with groups sing, and they're like, we don't have anyone for the big finale. That's because those don't exist when you're doing caroling. Next, you mentioned in the synopsis, but this snowstorm they're stuck in is even snow everywhere, but around this Lincoln Town Car, there's a foot of snow on all four sides. It's like a prank. It's not like a snowstorm.
They were on the road.
It's like somebody waved them down, held them at gunpoint, and then made this and then let them go. And then that leads me to my last
get out
one.
of this.
And I do want to talk more.
Well, I'm really sad for you that you don't consider the magic of old Chris with a K and Santa, and like, yeah, that had to happen.
Well,
so maybe there was a little special magic involved.
That leads me to my last one, and we're going to talk about Santa in the What the Hallmark segment, and I'm going to let that happen. But for all intents and purposes, let's assume that when William arrives to the last night of the festival, that he is now the only person in existence in this movie that knows for a fact that Santa Claus is real and does exist. Can we all agree to that?
He has to.
Yes.
He knows. No, Rady's in trouble. You can see it already. He knows it.
Yeah.
No one else knows it. No one's seen it. Mm-hmm. But the implication here is that Michael Rady's character, William Darcy, has ridden on the real Santa Claus's sleigh. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get to that in the What the Hallmark. They arrive, and this happens. Our special celebrity guest, who is going to read The Night Before Christmas, can no longer do it. Mm-hmm. We had a celebrity guest. It was going to blow the people's minds. He can't make it. William Darcy's like, look, I'm William Darcy. Some people know me. Most people don't. We've got the real freaking Santa Claus here, but let me take this one. The actual Santa Claus could be reading Night Before Christmas, and Darcy's like, my time to shine. Mm-hmm. This is my time to shine. Let me get after it. I know. I got a lot to tell you guys.
He came off the porch.
Santa's real. There's a lot there. The sleigh's in the back. I can't do that right now. Give me the book. This is my time to shine.
Oh, this is so uncomfortable. Yeah.
The things we do for love, right? Just to get kissed.
Oh.
You're right. Yeah. I can't refute that. That holds up.
Yeah.
That holds up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Well,
are you hoping I will offer like some like deleted scenes or like, oh, here's the deal?
No, because I've got questions about. We got to get to what the.
All right, let's get to the What the Hallmarks where we wonder what could have been. Maybe having give some clarity to the questions that we still have. Brian, are you still wondering about anything?
You sort of touched upon it, Michael, and it was about how during the daytime there are so many extras and the scenes are so full, and at nighttime it's a ghost town. There's nobody around, and I guess is it just because all the extras get tired and leave, and they just are shooting in the middle of the night?
Quite frankly, yeah, that is a very Christmas in Homestead. I remember we shot down in Dahlonega, Georgia, and this little town up in 2 hours north of Atlanta in the Blue Ridge Mountains, I think. And I don't even think they were paying the extras on that one. I think that production company was like, yeah, no, you get to be in the movie. That's the payment. And so everyone at like 7 p.m. was like, cool. It's 3:30 in the morning and the kids are losing their minds and everyone because they shouldn't be awake and everyone's like we're
out of here. See ya.
God.
And so I remember Stephen Monroe had to get a really long lens, like a 300 or 200 millimeter lens, which just it lets you see like that much, and they just line up like 7 people behind each other, and it looks like there's 4 dozen people there.
That's great.
That's great.
So yeah, that happens quite frequently at night. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen an extra be asked to do? Like as a role. Like we've seen an extra walk a bride
down the aisle.
Yes,
Brutal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like clearly he was an extra. Hey, you're going to be the father of the bride. Just don't say a word.
That's really funny. That is so funny. Oh man. I mean, I've had to see. Oh gosh. I'm unprepared for this one because there have been.
You just sit on it for a little bit.
Yeah.
You just sit on it.
Yeah, let me think about it. Background performers get asked to do some bananas things. But they can't talk.
That's right.
You can't have an utterance.
But imagine
You just
having to you're walking your daughter down the aisle, biggest day of her life. who gives this?
And like
Yeah, two thumbs.
The guy's suit doesn't fit. He's so uncomfortable. It's an all-time performance.
great.
I got to find the video for you.
It's
the
great.
poor guy, you couldn't have paid him enough money. He came into work today thinking it was going to be sitting around playing cards and making the minimums. And he was like, he's got to be the father of the bride, and he's unprepared. His suit doesn't match anyway.
It's a big moment.
It's fantastic.
My favorite's when you have to ask. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's one in the movie that Hallmark may or may not announce, and that may or may not have me in it, and that may or may not be this year.
We'll have to have
there was an extra, a background performer who was a champ, and she came in and helped with something. It was pretty ridiculous.
That is crazy.
Good tease. Good tease. I love when you have to ask an extra something, but they're not allowed to talk. So it'll be like, "Hey, do you know where something is?" And they'll just be like,
or like do the silent laugh.
Yeah.
So great.
Got to pay them if they laugh. Rady, is there anything in this movie that you're in that you're still wondering about that you'd like an answer to?
Oh,
You
man.
said George and Elizabeth earlier. That was a good one. You said George and Elizabeth.
Well, I mean, hey guys, we could easily. It hasn't been mentioned yet that Darcy and Elizabeth live in the same square, like 2 miles on the island of Manhattan.
That's right.
Where like people meet up all the time. Like presumably they're living together with a beautiful weekender up in Lambton, Connecticut. Let's revisit. We can tell that story. Let's go back and find out.
Christmas at Pemberley Manor 2.
Yeah.
That we revisit.
Yeah.
There's another sinkhole. It's bigger.
No,
they didn't-
I'm just
Yeah.
offering that up. But, I don't know if this is right for this segment, but someone had asked about the flies as well.
Yeah.
And I remember we were doing, as I mentioned, it was like mid-June in New England, and we had to do the horse-drawn carriage scene, and it was blistering hot. It was sweltering, not a cloud in the sky, and we have like a horse or two. Was it one or two horses? Two horses.
I don't know. Yeah, you got a pea coat on though. At some point, I mean that's brutal.
Like 3 layers. Oh yeah. Gloves.
Oh,
A blanket.
My 2-year-old calls them gloves.
Gloves.
Blanket, nice little Afghan, and now there's 2 horses, like 3.5 feet away, and with their big like poop bags.
Yeah.
And the flies, the little tiny dulciums, they call them, like the little flies. So we're being doing this like sweet romantic montage, not montage, but the romance is building in this scene, and we are just catching flies you can get those things in your eyes, and it takes you out. You have to hold on one sec. I gotta hold my badminton racket. I have to I gotta follow my eye. It shuts you down for a second.
Hold my badminton racket
on the badminton court.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing in the summer, and you get one. We're getting them in our mouth, up our nose, and so we're like, hold on, and now you got to reset because now you're like a tiny little loop we got to do shooting the horse walking. So we got to go back. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I got to shut the other eye. I got another one in the other eye. It was brutal.
That's brutal.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Mine.
I'm done complaining.
What was that?
I'm done complaining.
Oh
now.
no, that's great. That's great. Mine is. I feel like we talked about this 5 years ago, but what is the Jane Austen of it all with this movie?
Pride and Prejudice.
I know, but why? This happened a handful of times.
It did,
especially early on, where they were like, let's just tie Jane Austen into it for no real reason
at all.
Like the names in the Pemberley, but why? But why? What is really the question for me?
Is there a tree lighting in the book?
Is it free open source material? Is that what it is?
I guess it's like, hey, people know these names.
Well, I think they knew that Jane Austen was kind of a hack, and if they could get their screenwriters on it, they could really start to touch up some of her shortcomings, right?
Elevated a bit, just a bit.
How many Jane Austen-isms do they have to use in order to have to credit
give
her?
credit?
Like his sensibility and
like a
Snowman.
percentage, right?
Is that one? Does that have a credit on it? I don't know. That's wild.
That's a great tech. Can we get legal on that?
Legal.
Yeah, let's get legal on
Talked
it.
to you earlier today.
About that.
Dan.
Yeah, so we've talked some about Santa. This is a weird Santa that I guess took over the groundskeeping duties at the manor, and this is all of this happened because Elizabeth's character wished for her true love, and so apparently on Christmas Eve night, Santa's delivering presents and has to stop and go back down to fulfill this wish. That's why he's there. That's the explanation he gives.
we're here.
And then he takes December 7th. He takes Rady on a flight. That's the best way to understand
Assumed.
it. And
Are
then
we sure? Because they had a
Santa-
horse
And he was a
strong
little cranky about it too. Like he was a little like, oh my god. Like,
So,
You know what's so funny?
But here's the thing is, when they arrive at the festival, Santa walks in and Rady behind him, and Rady has like a goofy kid smile on his face. And it's like, dude, he's playing this like he just rode in Santa's sleigh. That's how he's playing it, because he knows that that's what the character would be like. If Santa was real and you rode in his sleigh, this is what you would look like. And you'd be wanting to shout it from the mountaintops, but we don't have time for that because somebody's got to read Night Before Christmas. And so I just want to know, like, do you remember just talking through, okay, so he's come in off of Santa's sleigh.
Yeah, what was the direction there?
Because you have no dialogue, but that is the performance of 2018 for me. Like that one scene of you having to come in and be like, guys, I just wore a freaking Santa's sleigh.
We're all living
and not
through
be able
him.
to say it. That's gold, Rady. It's gold. Do you remember that at all?
I only remember the discussion about the Santa of it all. I don't remember the non sequitur into I love you. I mean, essentially it's like you brought me out of my shell. But you're right. Like, let me show you how you've changed me. There was more of a discussion of what level of
Santa we were going to allow.
Of Santa we were dealing
Yeah.
with. There was we played with degrees of that, and so they obviously chose more of like the OMFG guy. And it was like, my hair looks pretty good though still. But, woo!
You would not believe it.
I like to think that you got in the sleigh, took off, and then Santa pulls out a gun. And he says, don't you freaking tell a soul. Don't you tell anyone. No one talks about this.
That's how
I
he
do
handles
this.
it?
I do this from time to time. I give people rides from time to time for love, but don't you tell anyone.
Wow.
We came from the woods.
Wow.
That's all they can know.
That's dark.
Yeah.
But you did say something that I noticed too. He sort of did give Mr. Darcy a hard time. He's like,
Yes.
I'm taking time out of my schedule, giving gifts to kids to deal with this. Like, it was great.
Yeah. Like, what? Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Like, get in the sled. Come on, get in the sled.
You're adults. I shouldn't be doing this.
I keep in touch with Steve Larkin, by the way. What a great guy. I really had he's the actor who played Chris.
Yeah. Santa. Yeah.
A great Santa.
Yeah.
Hey,
Don't know.
fun fact,
guys.
Jane Austen does not get a writing credit on Sense and
Interesting.
Sensibility
Not
and
enough
Snowman.
goodies.
Not enough
goodies.
But he does on Christmas at Pemberley Manor.
Great research.
It's possible that somebody just put that on IMDb. I don't know who edits IMDb.
I don't know who
I don't
That's
know.
that.
I want to know.
I do want to know.
Yeah.
Speaking of wanting to know,
Yeah.
real quick, Rady, looking at our set, is there anything you're wondering about?
Any questions? How
I
different?
didn't hear what you said.
Oh.
I know. I was just looking at the. I love that you guys have like. What do you have, like a balsam tree? Like,
Oh, the
what is
balsam.
this?
Oh, the balsam
Oh,
hill
you
tree.
mean Balsam Hill that came and did our set? Do you even mean that tree?
You guys, are you kidding me? That thing's Balsam Hill did that tree for you?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. The garland, the ornaments.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying.
I
We're
know.
saying the same
I
thing,
know,
right?
Michael, as somebody who
I feel like we're saying the same thing here,
I think
guys.
so.
As someone who owns a manor, I imagine you have 10 of the balsam hill trees
Minimum.
already.
These are great because you have 37 rooms in your house. You can put these in every room, and they will look great all year.
But
round.
here's the
If you
thing.
want- our caretaker takes most of them down for the off season, but they can store wonderfully, and then he puts them back out in like late October once Hallmark starts airing the Christmas movies, the new ones, and and then they last.
It's unbelievable.
But let me tell you why you should get more. Because during Christmas in July, they're doing a up to 50% off sale to celebrate Christmas in July, and then to hook our listeners up, they're getting an extra 5% off with the podcast code, which is podcast.
Code's podcast, and just by listening to us, that's how they get that.
Easy
Can you
peasy.
believe that, Michael?
Now's the time. A little foresight here. A little foresight.
right.
You save yourself, and you're ready to go.
Yeah,
That's right.
For Christmas.
You're geared up for less money. It's unbelievable.
Easy peasy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for looking at
Thanks for
at
noticing
that.
that.
That's really cool.
It's fancy. I was just noticing that.
Man,
Yeah.
I was just noticing
nothing
you
gets by
noticing that. We did, everybody. Congratulations. A wonderful time going back in time to 2018. A wonderful time having Michael Rady join us. Michael, is there anything else you want to leave with the people before we leave you?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Did you guys have someone on reviewing this 5 years ago?
No, it was
No,
just,
it's just
the three
us.
of us. It was the
Just
three
us.
of us. Yeah, that's it.
Back in the old days.
That's right.
No, I have so much fun hanging out with you guys. You guys are just fun.
You're the best,
Just
man.
doing fun. I always have a great time. So thanks for thinking of me and inviting me here. I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for doing this. This was weird. Thank you. It was really it was a good time for us. I imagine it was a
blast.
weird time for you. Next week, it's Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
The first Tyler Hines Christmas movie. A movie that was reviewed with the help of Justin Kirkland.
That's right.
And before the Heinies get on us about whether or not Tyler's joining us next week, should I be mean? No, he's not joining us, but we do have a special guest joining us.
That's
It's
right.
going to be a lot of fun. It's just not Tyler Hines. Until next time, may we be the first to wish you and you and you and all of yous a very Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast is produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.